Workday in talent, right? And then we have also seen we can write an evaluate expression to capture a attribute or a const parameter into a props or any variable we need or set a property, right? And we can use those properties within our write file to create a message, and we can store that message into Workday tenant using the store component. And you can output a message on Workday tenant using put integration message. We are also seeing local outs and local ins. So I already said to you guys that local out is just used to connect to a local in. If you want to go for a different subassembly. So for example, you have one assembly here and you have another assembly here. So that's the only thing we have discussed. But there is another example for local out which will actually give its purpose, and we'll see when it's right time for that. And then today, what we're going to do is we're going to call a report from Workday, get the report data into Workday, and probably create a file from it, or capture the data from the file and then put it in a text file or text format or something like that, right? So we'll do that. So in order for me to do that, we need a report first, right? So let me get back to our Workday. And one more important thing, team. So do not create any heights in the implementation tenant, any new heights. So Dhanush was telling me yesterday, or Shai was telling me yesterday, that when we create new heights, right, it basically increases the count of employees. So they might notice it. So we might lose access to the tenant. So do not create new heights. Or do not create, in a sense, new heights or new users. Okay. Password. Okay, do I have a report already? View custom report. My reports here, advanced report. This is good. Okay, I have 6 fields in here. Okay. Now I have this report, so I'm gonna use this report as my report in my studio and capture this data into in an XML format. So in order for this to happen, right, your advanced report, the report that you have created should be web service enabled. So currently this is not web service enabled, so I'm gonna change it to web service enabled. Get it? Once enable it as web service, and it automatically gave it a namespace. So we'll find there columns. Okay. Run. I'm removing this employee instance. That's not really, because we also have contingent workers in here. We don't need an employee instance. So employee ID, let's get a date. Hide date. Not this. I want to get an active status flag so I can write some expressions in there. So return type if the worker is active as part of report date provided. I'm going to get this. Okay. Okay, I don't need this. Now the data looks good. So how do we do it in our studio, right? So in order to create a report as a service, so we have to first create a service called create report service. So within your start, within your start here or Workday in, within your services, you create a report service. And then you put a report service name. Okay, saving it. So in my report service, I have an option of adding a report alias or referencing a report. So I add plus new entry and I create an alias for my report. It's called just report. You can give any name. And description, you can reference your report directly from here. You can select a report as a fast report. You can click on it. It will take you to your tenant, web service enable reports. I also am filtering reports owned by me. Next. And it will show me this report. Finish. But this is not a recommended way to do it. I mean, we used to do it this way, but this is not a recommended way to do it. Rather, we just create a report alias and then we configure that report in the tenant, which is helpful during migrations. Because when you try to deploy a report from one tenant to a different tenant, because the report doesn't exist in the target tenant, it will create errors. So do not reference a report here, but you create a report alias. Your description can be anything. It's just for documentation, this thing. Okay, then save. So I have my report service created, alias described. Now I want let this continue. I'm not going to change it. What I'll do is I'll create assembly here, right? So I'll use the second assembly. Now I'll use a palette called Workday Outrest. So Workday Outrest is used to make REST calls. In this case, report as a service is a REST call. So we are using Workday Outrest. We also have Workday OutSoap for making SOAP calls. So if any case we are making SOAP calls, for example, calling Workday APIs, we use SOAP. We'll see it. So Workday Outrest. Common components, we have ID, routes to, if it is routing something, execute when. It's just a condition. If you can write a condition here saying 1 equal to 0, which has never happened, so it's false. Or you can write a condition true, like execute always. Or if you have a condition saying only run this report when I see an inactive employee or something, right? You can put a flag, and based on that flag, you can execute this step or you can skip this step. So execute when is available on all palettes. And then extra path. So extra path is where you reference your report URL. So you can reference your custom object here. You can reference your report RAS report here. So yeah, and you can reference your report alias. So we already created a report alias. So what we're going to do, we're just going to click the report alias and we'll select our report alias here. Okay. And then you see insys report service dot get extra path. So this is a syntax, AML syntax, and then you're referencing your report alias here. You can do it this way, or if you never created your service, you can also do a RAS directly from here. And then what it will do is, just to take a test this time. What will it do is if we create a, it will create a report alias directly. So currently I'm using report alias, but so if there is no report alias, then it will create it. So let me just remove it for testing. Okay. I removed my report service, and then I'm going to remove the syntax here. Clear, select a RAS report, click on R, go to my implementation, next, advanced report, next. You create a report alias directly from here, which is the same way like you read before. You'll get the same syntax. and you'll also see a report service created here. So just same thing. I'm going to clear this. Now we have your report service here. First, I want to see what's coming out of my report, right? So what I'll do is I'll simply store the output into a file that I can look in my UI. So I'm going to use it and put a store, create store, and whatever message that's coming from this Workday out rest, I'm going to store it. So I'll give a title called report, output.xml. And then I put a message. So now I'm gonna simply deploy. Include source code in deploy tab. I added a report service that updated my initial parent integration as well. So next, finish. Then I go to my tenant. Now in my tenant, I also see a report service. So I want to configure my report service now. Same thing, integration system, configure integration reports. Click on it. You'll get an option to configure your report service. So this is where you have to select your report. CR advanced report. Yeah. So this is where you have to select your report rather than hard coding it directly in your studio. So that's not recommended.
So doesn't that make it like a manual task in between then? Every time you have to come in here and then you have to configure it?
I mean, it's not every time. Once you deploy it, so this is this time, even though if I redeploy it, it's not going to erase it. So if I redeploy the same class,
you don't have to configure it again?
I don't have to configure it.
Okay. So the whole idea was you're saying the whole idea is that when you take it to another tenant, because you are configuring it in the tenant, so it basically creates a shell over there, and that's the reason you're configuring it.
Yeah. So the main reason is right when you said. So I'm referencing a report directly in my studio. So I'm just saying get this report reference. So whenever you are moving the studio code into a new tenant, which does not have that report, or even though if it has, the reference ID of the reports might be different, or the Workday IDs will be different. So whenever you are deploying it, Studio will give you an error saying, I can't find this report reference in your target tenant, because in your target tenant, this report never existed. So while doing it with from the UI, like I did configure it in the UI, Studio will go in because there is no report reference in the Studio. You can migrate your online objects using Aux. So Aux will create your report in there, and so migrating, you don't have to manually attach it. You use a tool called Aux, which will do it. But if you Studio deployment, if there is no report here, it will give you. If there is a report here, if the report references doesn't match between the tenants, it will give you an error.
Will you
because
be going
on the back end, Workday only knows the IDs, right? We call it Workday ID or WID, WID. So it's basically referencing the WID.
Okay. This topic came up before too. Will you be showing us that migration tool Aux? You said OX?
Yeah, Aux.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know how to show it to you guys because we only have one tenant.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'll at least share some documentation on it. We'll see. Okay, P30, now I've got it. I'm gonna just run it. Okay. Launch, still error, help is up there. I do have two output files. One is my text, and the other one is our XML. So quickly go through my. And okay, so this is my report output. So I was able to call my Workday report and get the data as an XML into my studio. So I was able to store it. So now I can use this information to do some logicking or create a flat file or something, right? So what I'm going to do is, currently this is a Workday Workday outrage. So we have different types of URLs, right? So we have Workday XML, we have simple XML, CSV, right? So currently this is set to Workday XML by default. So you see all this width and everything. So for this position, this is the Workday ID. But if you want to get a simple XML, what you'll do is you'll do question mark inside question mark format equal to simple XML. Deploy it. Similar way, you can also do a CSV if you want your report in a CSV for you to do it. But Studio, right? I always prefer. It's really important to get into an XML because XML is like the source language you can use in Studio.
Can you create multiple formats at the same time?
You have to do multiple calls, not within a single call. So this call gives you a simple XML. But if you want a JSON or if you want a CSV outside, you do a different call. Okay, there is an error. I messed up something. This question mark. This should be outside. Seriously. Okay, so while that is running, right? So let's do, now I have stored it. Now I have to, what I'm trying to do is I'm going to use the XML that this report generated and get those values into some parameters. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an eval, add a step here, and while my Oxygen is open here. So new XML document, let's get this. Front of my, okay, now I have this here. In my studio, in my eval, I'm going to create a syntax. I'm going to create a prop first. So let's get the employee ID equal to. So the message output from this Workday outrage, actually any message output at that particular point in assembly is stored in parts of zero. So parts of zero is like your the current message value, right? So you have parts of zero, and you can access that parts of zero and say, get me an XPath dot XPath give me an XPath here so I can get that value from that parts of 0 or from the current message content and put it in your employee ID. So I'm gonna do an XPath here. So I'm gonna do copy XPath, paste. Okay. Report data slash report entry slash employee ID. That's good. And then I'm gonna add one more line. Job title. Same thing. Parts of 0 dot XPath. Copy my XPath. I'm just looking at two values here. So I'm gonna let's print those values. Let's print them in a write file. Create a file. And how do I print them? All I do is I do a text for employee ID. I get at the rate float. At the rate float brackets. I get this props. Now I'm going to store it, and as this is a text file, I'm going to remove this and put a text. Before deploy, right? So one thing we have to keep in mind is the namespace of your report. So currently, the report namespace is set to CR_advanced report, right? urn.com CR_. So what you have to do is you have to make sure your studio assembly is also on the same namespace. When you click on your assembly somewhere outside your palettes, just click on any white space, you'll see namespace prefixes. So these are all the namespaces that currently this studio is accepting. So what you can do is you can add a namespace with a prefix. Currently our prefix is set to WD. You can add a namespace. Because WD already exists, it don't work. Or you can edit the WD namespace, go to edit, and then you can replace it with your report namespace. So in that way, your report, the XPath actually works. So in that way, your studio assembly is capable of reading through your Workday XML and getting data out of that Workday XML into these props. It's similar to like how your XSLT needs your namespace in order to query through your XML, right? Same thing. But instead of doing this way, because you have to create each namespace prefix for every report if you have multiple reports, one recommended way is actually put this one, take this namespace, copy it, put it on your report. So go back to your report. Okay, yeah, this is the format. Go back to your report. Actions, edit. In the advanced tab, instead of your Workday given namespace, put your studio namespace. So that way you already have that namespace in your studio and your report is going to output with that namespace. So that will be easy. Okay.
Is that namespace just for referencing uniqueness?
Yeah. Referencing uniqueness, and also it gives your studio. So you're basically saying your studio, okay, now you have this namespace identified. If the report has this namespace, you should be able to read it, right? Read from this report, kind of a thing. Good question. Yes, Vivek. Currently, we are only targeting the first node of that XML. So Vivek is asking if we are only targeting the first node. So if you observe my XPath values, I just gave one. So I'm just trying to access my first node. And that's not okay, right? I mean, we have to access every node, not just first node. So I'm going to show you that, but let's see if this one works first. Something failed. Laundry is unable to. What? Part of 0.xpath. Nope. Oh, part of 0. Seriously, I need to have parts of 0. Yeah, I should have parts of 0. I take part of 0, so that's where it errored out. Props. Had the error. Okay, yeah, that's the error. Part 0. Integration launch. Okay, good. We have our second output file, which gave us the first report entry. So I think this is the employee ID, and that guy does not have a job title. 21001. So let's just confirm it. Oh, he has it. That's the job title, man. We should get it.
What's that error? I can still number of errors 1.
Oh, okay, yeah, this is because we gave a put integration message here. So this message is outputting error always.
Okay.
And then it is set to get an attribute.
I see, severity. Okay.
Yeah, the severity of this is set error.
Instead of warning or a error, can it be like a simple message?
Info.
Info. Okay, that's the one. That's better.
Yeah. Okay. And can anyone say why my job title is not working? Because I added an underscore in my eval, and I did not put it in here. So that's okay. I'm going to put it later. Okay. Now what we'll do is, like Vivek asked, right? We were able to output one employee or the first node of your XML out into a file. But now, if you need to access multiple nodes, or if you want to loop through each worker and get data for each worker, so we have an option in Studio that's called Splitter. So Splitter, what's the functionality of the Splitter? Is it basically loops through each record and creates it breaks the one XML. So, for example, in my Splitter, once I use my Splitter, I'll only get the report entry, this one, Control X, Control N, Control V. So I'll get the report entry tag. So each report entry will actually loop through. So you'll get the first report entry and then the second report entry and then the third one, right? So that's how you get it. So I'm going back to my studio. I'll use the component called splitter. And what I'll do is.
So are you saying that it will create, if I have 10 entries, it will create 10?
Yes. So for each entry, if I have a store after the splitter, right, I'm going to remove it. But if I have a store after the splitter, each record is a line. So it will create probably hundreds of files. So within the splitter, you have multiple strategies you can apply. So when I click on a strategy, I see a custom splitter. I think this is based upon a bean. You can write a Java bean here. We are not using it, so I'm gonna do it. And you also see a standard splitter, which is based upon a line feed or something. You can do an XPath splitter. So you can create an XPath splitter. You can create an XML stream splitter. You can create a unzip splitter. So unzip splitter, for example, right? If you have one zip file and if you have multiple files within that, it will unzip and it will pass through each file. And it will wait for that file to process and complete, and then it will launch the second file. So let's do XPath splitter for now. And you also have route, things like that. So I'm going to give it an XPath. So what is my XPath? So I want to split for each report entry, right? So my XPath will be my report entry. So my XPath will be my, not this, let's go to Moxie. Yeah, my XPath will be WD column report data / WD column report entry. So this is my XPath. So I want to split each report entry record. Okay. And after my splitter, my subroute goes to my next step. This is how you route it. You create a splitter, you do an XPath splitter, put your XPath that you want to split through, and then subroute it to your next assembly. And within this assembly, right now, go ahead.
No, nothing. So that's just a string it is looking for. And as soon as it finds it, it splits the file.
Yeah. So it's for this XPath, report data / report entry.
Right, which is like in other language, it's like a string of a text it is looking for in the XPath. Okay. Thanks.
It is the XPath, right? So this is the XPath. It's not the string. So it is your parent and then your child.
Parent and child. Okay.
So it will loop through each report entry. So each report entry will be a message after the splitter. So we'll do in debug mode also. In that way, you can see how the loop is working. But we'll get there. And then currently now I'm already splitting through it. So I'll have this one after the splitter now, right? So my XPath changes. So my XPath will be only now report entry / employee ID. So I'm gonna remove this report data here. And I don't need this one because now I'm not looking for the first one. Save. Instead of this write, what I'll do is I'll print a message, right? I don't want to do it right, so it will create so many files. I'll put this right in a placeholder for now. I'm not going to use store, otherwise it will create so many files. So what I'll do is I'll just put an eval, and then we have these employee IDs, right? I'll put them in a message. So I have my severity put to info. I have my summary. Let's get the summary as employee ID. And let's get the detail as job title. Now I should see all the messages, all the employee IDs and job titles coming in my messages. One file. It's pulling up. So you have info, a message, and the job title. And it will keep on increasing until it completes each row, right? So that's how they have a lot of messages going in. And Workday limits it to 500, just for your FYI. But I mean, you don't really put these in messages. You probably create a flat file with all this. So now let's do that. So we have our splitter, and then let's see if we can create different messages or create an if condition or a route condition actually within here to give a different output for active employees, a different output for inactive employees, right? So we have an active inactive flag in our XML. So we have active status flag, right? So let's get that active status flag. So I'm going to put it in my eval again, props. Parser 0 dot export WD colon. Now I have this active status. So this active status, we have a value going forward. I'm going to also use a log here just to put some messages. Log. I have actually put this entire right here. Record. End of record. I'll also add my active status within here. The status at the rate. Okay. Let me move this guy for a minute. Okay. Now we have our active status. Now we want to determine based on our active status a different route for each worker, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to create use a palette called route. I'm going to drag and drop the route here. So route is used to route the assembly, right? So within here also you have different strategies that you can apply. This one is custom strategy. It's your Java Bean. I'm not sure what regex is. So there are so many strategies that I never use. Some strategies that we always use is all strategy. So it's like whatever, it's every condition is true. Like it route to every other possible assembly after this route. And the other one is document iterator. If you have multiple documents coming in, and you want to send each document at a time, so you use document iterator. Now what we need is an ML strategy, because we want to evaluate or validate an expression, and based on that expression, if the value is true, route it to one direction. If the value is false, route it to a different direction, right? So we're going to use an ML strategy here. So I'm going to add route here. So within this ML strategy, so I have an expression here. So what's my expression? I have my props active status equal to 1. So if my active status equal to 1, or let's start with 0. That's fine. Yeah. If my active status is 1, then connect this to the alternate route. Okay. And I'm going to add one more condition here. I'm going to say if my active status equal to 0, connect it to my subroute. Connect this one here. And then I need to create an assembly here now. So let's do what? Let's do an async. And this is my inactive part. So I'm going to route my inactive here and route my active here. Let's name this differently. Yeah. So once these are done, now shall we do? Thinking.
So write in each one now.
Yeah. Good. We can write in each one the same text, but also give an active status there, so we know what this message is. Let's do this, and then give.
So this totally looks like a GUI way of doing the programming.
Yeah. You also have the source code. I'll be sure if the source code once I finish this off. So whatever we do on this assembly, it is stored in source. It converts itself into a source. So this is all your true source. So the log that I have created, right? So it was in there. So everything. But we use this designer or assembly to actually, it makes it easy. Okay. Now we have written. Let's do a what else? EID is there. Yeah, okay. It might put integration messages here. Okay, select this guy, print the same, put integration message, go here. Let's store it this time. So let's create a store. There is a way to merge it. It will be too much coding here. So I'm going to store each document for now. So within this title, right, let's actually use the employee ID as title and active status. So props of employee ID. I'm going to put this props of employee ID within my store. txt. Oops, not like this. Should do at the rate. It's open, close, dot txt. Shall I also do active status also? Okay. So that's my file name. I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to deploy it very quick. I hope we have some inactives. Okay, yeah, we do have inactives. This guy is inactive. Good. We run our integration. We see a lot of files. No, I did not finish up this put integration messages. Okay, summary. Actually, I don't need this put integration messages. I'm going to remove this. Store is fine. Stored. So let it run. Meanwhile, I got a question from Vivek. If we want to add space between employee ID and status, then we need to use. I don't think so, because the store already uses your text. So within the store, you actually can enter text. If you want to put any properties, then you use syntax. If I'm right, it will still get me this plus in my output. So it will say employee ID space plus space one dot txt. Let's see. Okay, we have hundreds of output files. Yeah, see, employee ID plus this thing. Okay, I'm looking for 0. It will be an interesting search. Let me download one. So this guy is active, employee ID, job title 1. Okay. I have a 0 here. So this guy is inactive 0. I mean, we haven't done much of it actually. Anyways, right. So this is how your routes it. If you can create any expression. You can add OR conditions within the studio itself. You can say employee ID equal to, and I can add an OR saying just only for these employee IDs, or just when a job title contains XXX, something like that also, right? Let's quickly see the same thing in debug mode. Give you an idea how the splitter works.
So question here.
So let's do, yeah, go ahead.
If my goal was to create 2 files, one for active employees, the other for inactive employees.
Mm-hmm.
So I know you use the splitter on that XPath, and then the routing condition is based on 1 or the 0. So I know, so it created a lot of output files.
Yeah.
What step would I not do if my goal is to create 2 files, one for active, one for inactive? Which step would you do?
Active. Okay. So I would do it in a different way. So I have my, hold on. Yeah, I can write XSLT. So I'll not use splitter at all in the first place, because I don't want to split the records. I can write my XSLT directly. So I'm going to use my, where is this? XSLT right here. And similar to how we wrote XSLT for our EIDs, right? We can write a for each in there, and you can create a text out of your XSLT.
Got it. Okay, thanks.
There is also a palette called aggregator. I'll actually teach you guys it tomorrow because I'm not actually fully comfortable with it. I don't want to try it and create so much time. So aggregator is also used for aggregating. So once you have your splitter, at the end, if you want to aggregate multiple messages into one, you can do that using aggregator. But we'll see later. Okay. And I have this thing. Let me deploy it. Next. Just stepping over these initial steps. Here. Okay. With this, I don't need this. Now we are at our worked out rest. So after this step, we're basically calling the report and getting data out of our report. So once it runs, right, you will see your data here. Download this item. Okay. So this is our report output in simple XML format. You don't see the widths and everything, right? And this is in your message root part. So what I'm talking parts of 0 is nothing but I'm calling my message root part, which is your workday report output. And I'm accessing my values using a .xpath function. So I'm doing parts of 0 equal to, I'm putting a variable, parts of 0, which is my message root part, dot xpath. I'm accessing my root part using an xpath function called report entry / report entry / employee ID. Okay. Now I see multiple report entries right here, report entry. There's so many reports. So my splitter will basically break one report entry and send it over. So I'm going to step over and I should see only one report entry. So there is only one report entry now. And my evals will work as normal. And now I'm at root. What my route is looking at active status. So if my active status is 1, it goes to my active flow and it continues there. So now this store is complete. So once this store is complete, there is nothing that the assembly can perform. So now it will do a check back on the splitter. So it will come back to our splitter and it will give, first it is going to my route because my route can have other functions that can perform, right? So for example, I can use a strategy called all strategy, like I said. So all strategy is once you complete one route, go for the next route as well. So, but we are using an XML strategy, so it will check this if it is an all strategy, and if now it is not, it will go back to our splitter. Now our splitter will output the next record. Okay. And this continues. This cycle continues until my splitter is out of records, and then the process ends, right? route, splitter, route. And within here, you can look for properties. So currently the properties of employees is set to 21002, active status 1, job title is this one, right? We are before the eval. So once I pass this eval, they should get updated with the new values, because the current root part is different from previous root part. So you basically, whatever your root part is, your XPath is validating it, getting data from it and putting it in your properties. Okay. Cool. Anyone? I mean, this is how the entire assembly works. It just goes from each pallet to each pallet, looking at the message and acting upon the message.
So if I see an error when I'm launching the integration, and I can't figure out by looking at the message, I'll come here to debug.
So yeah, that's a good question. So currently, right, you have seen we are creating the messages. So we are basically saying, put an error message or put something there in the tenant so that I can look for. Okay, I'll show you guys how to create error messages and logging. There is another way to do it. Unless we as a developers, we identify certain spots and say, okay, there might be a possible error here, I would handle it. I mean, I would put an error handler there. So that's when I can use. Let me stop this debug really quick. I'll show you guys. So within this async, right? Let's say I am expecting an error here, or there might be a possibility of something going wrong here, right? So I do add something called create send error, which will add underneath your assembly or underneath your async mediation, and then you do a put integration message here. Summary, just summary, and then you route this error to this put integration message, and you will make that property as error. And you can add a summary called this is an error at certain places. And for capturing the error, there is a syntax called context dot get error message. Ouch. So if there is an error at this particular palette, at this particular async, so async will actually send an error and it will go to your put integration message and it will display that error on your UI. And because we are in this record, so for this particular record, if there is an error, it will split out and it will go back to the splitter to give you a new record, because the record that you're processing went on a different route, right? So if you have an error here, it goes down below if you add the send error. Unless, so it's always recommended to add send errors on all possible async mediations, because you don't know where it's going to error and you capture everything if any palette or anything gives you an error. But if you don't do it, your only way to find out is using the debug. You go to each palette, something errors out, you know where the point is. Okay. Let's add those errors later. I have a question from Vivek. If the integration is running for a long time, then to see the timings of each palette. You're saying which palette is taking so much time. I have to dig into it. I have seen a code where they have written percentages and things like that. But typically, when you're calling a report or something, that is where it takes the maximum time. And once you run your integration, right, you'll see information here within your integration details. This finish. Oh, yeah, finish. There is a consolidated XML now. Yeah, it should be one of these XMLs, one of these logs. Yeah, this is where it will give you the time, and this consolidated log is actually pretty tough to read. So you see, I have my route. It took 14 milliseconds or something. And I have my custom step. What is the step? I have my write step. It took like 10 seconds. So within this consolidated XML report, so that's your log. It will be in your consolidated reports and logs. This is where you can find the timings. But I have to find the syntaxes. I saw people writing some, like in a hackathon, they wrote something where you can actually look for percentage complete and create some variables where they can access the time and everything. So, but it was in hackathon that was super coders, not me. So we'll see. I'll try to find it out if I can. Nice. Any other questions until? Let's get back to okay. Now we have seen how to access a report. We have seen what distributor can do. We haven't seen what we call let's do errors. Yeah, we have some time. Let's do errors. So now we expect that everything in this might error out, right? So let's create errors, error logging. What we'll do is we'll create a send error here. Just click on the async and it will show you the send error functionality on the top. And then I create a put integration message here. So you don't necessarily have to create a put integration message for all errors. So if you want to capture an error into a CSV file, right? So it's also see that. But in this case, what's the possibility? If something is erroring out in this particular mediation, it will be only one-time error, right? So once it errors, then the assembly entirely failed. I mean, it don't go forward, right? So I don't have recurring records in this error. So I'm fine here. That's why I'm putting just one error. I'll say security equal to error. I think one or something. Yeah, right. Detail. Detail. Let's add the context. Text. Context dot get. Does it have a brackets? Does it not? Okay. Let's try with brackets. I'm not sure if it has the brackets or not. It's been a while. Losing my studio skills. Okay. What do you mean by context dot get star? Oh, you mentioned get. Okay, that's even bad. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Now we have put integration message here, right? So, but in this case, if you want to create an error log, let's say I want to add an error. So if something errored out, only that record will error out, and then the assembly will go back to my splitter, and the next record starts processing, right? But what if I want all my errors in a CSV file that I can look in the later stage, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put in another async here. I'm gonna route these errors to my async, and then I'm gonna write a write file or create an error log file here. So simple way to do it. Let me get an example if this guy has. Wow, this is a simple integration. This guys have any error logic. make it my own. Import solution catalog class, browse. Now, let me stop sharing 1 second, guys. I'll do it. I'm gonna get a class where it has some error conditions and other stuff. Resume sharing. Share my desktop, studio, or my downloads. This class. So I have an assembly that's work in progress. So let's try to get this message from here. Okay, this is even bad. And now it's working. Import solution catalog class. This is how a typical studio looks like. So much stuff. I mean, this guy is using an Excel logger. So there is an Excel logger that was developed. So people can use it. It's called custom Excel logger. I don't want you guys to, I'll share this custom Excel logger with you guys, but what this Excel logger does is it's a different assembly where you can log your errors into an Excel file and give it a color coding, more user-friendly aspects of it. But we don't want that. I'm looking for a simple Excel logger, simple logger. Okay. Okay, this is better. Yep. So let me get an Excel logger here. Yes, validate, set document parameters. Yes, log parameters. This is my log name. And then I have my so this is something I can it does not have brackets. Right. Okay, let's do it. Do it ourselves. I'm gonna put a right here, and what in this right I'll do is I'll put my employee ID, and I'll put a value in my employee ID. Okay, yeah, we are recording. Okay, right brackets open, paste my employee ID, comma. Let's also put. Actually, I don't need this. All I need is employee ID, comma. I need my error. So context dot error message. I got the syntax wrong, so it's context dot error message. It's not get error message. Now we have this right. And what you're doing is you want to create one more local out and send it to a different location, local out, and then route these errors into a different place so you can finally aggregate them into one file. I'm doing a local out and then a local in. So I'll connect my local out to my local in. So what I'm going to do, go to my local out common. Nope, not this guy. Subroutine 0. Yep, finished. These two are connected. So what I'll do is I'll put an aggregator here to just aggregate all my write files. And I'm going to use a message call. I'm just going to correlate all my messages. So that's what I'm going to do. So my separator is \n. What else I need to use for an aggregator? I need to use this. Okay, I have a header text called employee ID, comma, error message. Okay, I don't have any footer message, so, and my aggregator, see, it's only routed when my size is equal to -1. I have to add a strategy. Equal to -1. I have to make this true.
What does -1 mean again?
Yeah, -1 is nothing but when your entire messages are done. So that's when you want to aggregate your file. So your batch says the maximum number of messages. Hold on. That's why I don't want to get into this aggregator now. So it's been a while I've used it, so that maximum number of messages are back. Yeah, let's not get into this aggregator for now. I need some time to get that prepared. So I have my write file. What we're going to do is we'll do it in a different way. Instead of aggregating, what can I do? We can do an variable. We'll just I just currently put an error message in here. Let's just see that. And tomorrow I'll definitely go through aggregator. I need some time to prepare for that. Put integration message. Finish. Parameters. At the rate. Okay, and then summary is nothing but context dot error message. Okay. And in this case, we haven't seen any errors. We are not doing anything other than just passing data. So let's create a validation step in here so that if that validation fails, then it will give me an error, right? So for that validation to happen, I use a palette called mval or validate expression. I use it after this. So what I'll say for this mval is, what this mval will do is you give it an expression, and when this expression doesn't get true, it will give you an error message, and it will stop the process there and push it to an error, and then the next splitter will push the next record. So what I'm gonna do is what do we validate next? So let's do active status again. We don't have those many parameters to validate. Do we have any null there? I don't think we have any nulls. So let's do active status equal to 0. So when this condition is true, then it will give you a failure message. So it will say, let's give a failure message called employee is inactive. To put it as single quotes. Nope, I don't need to. Good. Employee is inactive. Okay. So that's my message I want to put whenever I find an employee is inactive, and then push it through this put integration message. Just saving it, just deploying it to the cloud. Just hope I see some errors. Error somewhere. What did I do it? Oh no, we're gonna create files. Oh, yeah. So yeah, this mval is actually a little bit other way around. So if this condition is true, then it goes forward, right? So if this condition, in this case, it's not true. So when I say employee active status equal to 0, if this condition is true, then go to the next step. But for most of the cases, our active status equal to 1, which will make this condition as false, and then it will give an error message. So this error should actually say active, right? So if you want to just process active employees, then you'll say active status equal to 1. So that's when it will evaluate to true and it will go forward. That's why if you see you have like 200 errors and then like probably only inactive files, 23 files. So all these files are only for inactive people because the MWell condition is only set to true when a person is inactive. I have my number of errors. So employee is inactive. So these are all errors I'll get. Okay. Yeah, but we don't have to put errors like this. We can create a CSV file with errors and then just put it as an attachment here. So that way people can just download the CSV file and look at those errors. But I'll definitely get to that tomorrow. I'll have to work on my aggregator skills. Jay, you were asking something before?
No.
No. Okay. Any questions, anyone?
Remember.
Yeah, it's been a while. Studio's my current client, so.
Is this from a market perspective, integration, was it pretty hot? Like knowing Workday integrations and Workday Studio?
Yeah, Studio is always plus. It's like a requirement for using. I've seen so many consultants, people that do not have Studio experience. But if you have Studio experience, it's a lot of plus. They'll basically say, I have known Studio, I have installed Studio. That's it. People don't go beyond that. A lot of people.
Well, I definitely see, because it's complex in nature, but once you get it, you're on the supply side, and there's an end.
Yeah, it's not that tough to learn. Also, you just have to do the right examples. I mean, in my experience, I actually learned it from this Workday help. Nobody taught me Studio, so.
Right, it's not complex. It's just something new, right? Because it's a lot of GUI, but the same programming concepts are there. You just have to learn a different language, how to speak that language. And I'm glad that it has the whole tutorials which you went through. So
yeah. Yep. Easy. And we'll also see probably aggregator tomorrow. We'll definitely see aggregator, and we'll try to get in file, like an input file, and then use doc iterator and convert a CSV file into an XML file. I'll have a CSV file ready tomorrow, so we'll convert that to an XML file and then use props to get the data into the props. And later, I mean, what's my target is simply, so I get a CSV file, I transform into something, and then I use that XML. And also, I have now the data. Let's do like hire employees, or let's do something change off, as we are instructed not to do hire employees. So we'll use an API called change jobs, and we'll try to import our CSV file data into Workday. So that's our final thing. That's what we want to achieve. So to go the next job, we'll do an import of CSV file and then convert it. And if time permits tomorrow, we'll also see a web service, how to do a web service testing and how to deal with that. Okay. Any questions, anyone? So this is where I want you guys to finish that report, so you can use that report in this Workday Outrest and do some Studio things. Vivek has a question. I have a question on assignment. If I can use custom transformation, and I need to implement fixed format, then I use the substring on accessibility. Okay, so fixed format, right? So you have you need to use substring, and you also need to use concat. So you have to first concat your field with some spaces and then truncate it for the fixed format, because the value of the field might change between. But that's where we have also created a function I've shown you in my previous sessions. I hope I have it right here. So let me see. The function folder. Yeah, I don't have a function on top of here, so you can use a function and then you can do that. But on document transformation, we'll use Workday delivered ETV and XTD. Yes, for document transformation, you have your delivered ETV and XTD functions. So, for example, yeah, ETV max length equal to 30, that will truncate. And if you want to do fixed length with a padding character of, in this case, I added a underscore, but if you want a padding character of space, you do this. You do have XTD fixed length equal to 10, and then XTD padding character equal to space. Yep. Thank you. Any other questions, anyone? Otherwise, that's a 1.5 hour. Time's running quick today, at least for me. I don't know if you guys are getting bored, but hopefully that's not that boring. Okay, any other questions, anyone? Otherwise, I think we can wrap it up for today, and we'll connect tomorrow. Going once, twice. So
Thank you.
Thank you. Guys, have a wonderful evening. Talk to you guys tomorrow. Bye.
Just 1 minute, Krishna. I think we can take it up with feedback also if you're okay.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. Yeah, I like your feedback. Nothing more on that. I haven't seen any negative comments, but I'll try to improve on my preparing
Just
skills.
one person has mentioned presentation. They're looking for presentation. Just one person has mentioned it.
Yeah. I mean, I can't prepare presentations these are all like working sessions. These will be more like working sessions for us. We'll work a problem and go use multiple scenarios and create something. I can't come up with any presentations in the scenarios. So sorry, but if like Dhanush mostly was doing with the functional side, right? So then he has to have presentations. He has to show you what's the business and other things. But this is all technical. I don't have anything, and I don't think I can get a presentation out of this. So like we have to go through all these scenarios. Yep.
Okay. Thank you very much for that, Krishna. Krishna, if you're okay, I'll just share my screen for this new Google Classroom, wherein I'll be loading all the material. I have already loaded your materials, uploaded your material. Dhanush's material also I'll upload so that they can have access anytime they want.
Okay, yeah, that's good.
Yeah, so just check once, Krishna. I have uploaded everything here, whatever material was there.
Yeah.
Okay, and assignment, there were 2 assignments. Just the questionnaire I was able to upload it towards the end.